Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tea with G on a very beautiful but cold Sunday morning here in Seattle. And I am assuming it's Sunday where most of you are, not the morning, but at least the same day. Unless, of course, you're in New Zealand or Australia, or let's see, for some it's very late at night. I noticed my friend from India is here. So welcome to another episode. I hope you all have your tea, as I do, in my favorite completely beat up old cup. So non-duality in the Western mind, it's something that's been on my mind a great deal of late, simply because I've just found it so difficult to do. And I've also noticed that watching some other teachers who I like and admire and think are genuine teachers, I watch the reactions in their own students and I see the same thing. That there's an attempt, well, let's put it this way. The intellectual foundation, the way in which people understand things, the context that really defines the Western mind is completely different than the context that defines the Eastern mind. It also is different, even that though is different than the context in which non-duality can be understood, although it's more open to it. It has more possibilities to grasp it in its essence than we do here in the West. And the reason is simply because the way we have all been taught to think, to discern, and to perceive things. The West, of course, when I say the West, what I'm saying is it's the approach to understanding and discovering truth that has as its primary assumption a split between the subject and the object. That I know something by looking at it, taking it apart, studying the piece parts, right, and the various relationships of everything. And eventually, I'll get down to the point where I'll know what that thing is. Now, it's not a bad approach. It's yielded all sorts of incredibly wonderful inventions. You know, we're experiencing one of those inventions right now. Gains in engineering and in design and in medicine and in technology, of course. So it's not that it's completely void, but it has a limit. And the limit is I can't use something that whole foundation of it is looking at something else and examining it through my perceptions and dismantling it, deconstructing it down to its essence. I can't do that when it's me. I can't stand outside of me, look back, and take me apart. Anything I perceive is something other than me. So anything I perceive, I can do that. I can take thoughts apart, feelings, cars, trucks, anything I can take apart, except myself. I can't do that. I am forever contained within this world in which I cannot see myself as an object. And therein lies the fundamental difference. Now, it took me a while to truly understand that, several decades to get where I really grasped that and saw how I was doing what, as Christ put it, putting new wine in old wineskins. It simply doesn't fit. The context in which it needs to be received has to be educated to understand this difference between a subject-object relationship and a subject-subject relationship, when the subject is the object. Right? How do you approach that kind of knowledge? And the Western view, which is very compartmentalized and very literal and very materialistic, has given rise to what we're experiencing right now. In theology, our religion is that way. Right? We have a God that is separate from the creation and therefore we have a relationship with that God, right? And then that God has all sorts of rules, and if we follow the rules correctly and do as we are told, we will get great bounty and blessing. But if we don't, we get our little asses kicked. And it seems as though the preponderance of emphasis is on the ass kicking rather than on the blessings. It seems to be motivated more by fear than by love. But that's an inevitable outcome if you're looking at the world through these eyes. Theology is going to have a God that is not me, that is something other than myself, is not even one with me. Hence, somebody like Christ coming along and saying, I and my Father are one, is blasphemy. Of course it's blasphemy. Now, they don't have quite that, they don't have that view in the East. The gods in the East are actually immanent. The ultimate view is that this is all God, that all of this is the creation, that it isn't a creation in the sense of I made it separate in time, that it is an ongoing thing, much like a jazz musician playing jazz. It's not a creation, it's happening spontaneously in the moment. And this is a completely different view. So how do you take in something as profound and as subtle and as nuanced as we are not two? There aren't two here, despite the fact that to our senses it appears as though there is. How do we take that in without challenging the context in which we're looking at it? Culturally, that point of view creates a completely different, it creates the politics, the economics, the relationships between people and families, between various religions. It, by its very nature, fosters conflict. It's exactly the opposite of oneness or not two. Exactly the opposite, played out in actual life. And yet, within this model, this Western model that we're living under, these little pockets of light show up, these acts of complete and total kindness, for no reason, giving with no expectation of anything in return. Just the support of each other that happens spontaneously. I mean, I saw it when I was living in New York during 9/11, only a couple miles from Ground Zero. And for a while, a week or two, it was the most kind, helpful, loving place you could imagine. New York City. New York City, the most kind place you could possibly imagine. It went back. It didn't stay that way, but for a while, after the utter numbness, I mean, it didn't. No matter where you went, into the subways, it was dead quiet. There was nothing. Nobody was saying a word. It was that numb. It was that traumatized. But then, little by little, as things began to come back, it was just so helpful and loving. Well, even then, when it was silent, there were the actions of kindness, and yet, if we look at some of the theories about life, I mean, one of them being the selfish gene. Somebody's actually said that there's a gene in us which is totally selfish. That even if we do something for the benefit of others, it's really for selfishness on our part. This is the kind of result you get when you look at the world through those eyes. Now, the way I've tried to approach it, I tried all sorts of different intellectual ways of doing little tricks and things to try to teach it in a different way. But the way I've come that seems to work the best, that seems to get people the closest to a direct experience of that oneness, paradoxically, is by going into the body. Simply pulling attention away from the external world and turning it towards just the everyday functioning of the human body. Now, the human body is way more than we think it is. Way more. We have a concept of it that we then try to force that concept on our experience. what I try to do in meditations and other kinds of things, inner reconciling, is to set aside the concept of the experience to try to have the direct experience. What is it that's actually going on here? Now, a feeling will arise, right? There'll be some feeling in my life. Say it's like loneliness or anxiety or anxiousness or sadness, right? Any kind of emotion, negative or positive. Right? The moment I label it as, oh, this is sadness, in that moment I'm no longer really present with it. I've put it in a box, I've given it a definition, and now I'm interacting with my definition of it, which is in the mind. I'm not actually experiencing it. If you take the time to go, okay, well, that's a thought about it, but what does it actually feel like? You'll find that the idea of sadness is this big, but the actual experience is like this. It's enormous. It's got sadness, but it also has peace in it. It's got anxiousness, and at the same time there's a calm. It's very nuanced. It is never just, it's sadness. Boom, end of story, put it in the box, we're all done. That's all mind. That is all the conceptual mind, which is the essence of what I'm getting at when I'm talking about the Western mind. It sees everything through concepts. So if you go into the body, you begin to feel things and feel them directly without a concept attached to them. So yeah, we can use a word like sadness, and that points us in the direction, well, what does sadness actually feel like? What does loneliness feel like? Now, I want to get away from it. I don't like them. Yeah, okay, they're unpleasant, agreed. But what does it feel like? What does it actually feel like? And what I find is the more you do that, the quieter and quieter the mind gets, the less conceptual it gets. And the more and more we get in touch with something that's actually beyond the body. Something that is aware of the body. Now, I've used it in those terms. I've said that in those terms. And I'm reluctant to say it like that now, because when I do, we already have concepts of that. Oh yeah, I'm looking at the body. But again, we don't actually go into the body itself and that I itself and begin to look at it, because we're looking at that too. And there's this other layer down there, which is wisdom. It's knowingness. It is, we feel it as like gut instinct or an aha moment or an intuition, right? But those are all words up here, right? Trying to capture an experience that emerges from down here. And I found that the best way in, the best portal that I've discovered for my own growth and for students and people I work with is that portal. Some people, it's the portal of emptiness. It's the portal of love. It's the portal of oneness. It's the portal of expansiveness. In sound, there's all sorts of different ways in which people get to that direct experience of themselves as the divine, as the one. The experience as the one. Not experiencing oneness, but experiencing yourself as that one. And I think, at least for the people that I've worked with and what I've seen others working with, and what I understand the nature of the Western mind, the conceptual basis of the Western mind, I think this is probably the best one for most of us. I've been intuitively doing that for a long time, bringing people into having a direct experience in their body, but I'd never really understood the power of it until recently. I never understood how significant and important it was, and how it really is a portal into a completely different experience of yourself. You find that at this level, the level of feeling, which I could call Ananda, right? The Sat-Chit Ananda, being consciousness, and for me that means feeling, right? Sat is just pure being. Chit is knowingness, and is consciousness. And Ananda is translated as bliss, but I see it as feeling. Because this is part of it. We're not just thinking. We're not just knowing. There's a knowing that is rooted somewhere else, like a gut instinct. And that's, to me, is an open door, which is why I keep bringing people back there. And the more I do it, the more I discover that not only they have enormous insights, but have enormous healings. Can actually get through layers and layers of trauma to find a place underneath that's calm, that's peaceful. I worked with one guy, this young man, who was full of trauma. I mean, just all sorts of stuff going on. Just shy, scared of things. And I went through this process, just going through the body, little by little. And we got to a point where he was very, very young. Now, this is spontaneous. I didn't try to do inner child work or anything. I'm just, what is this feeling? Okay, now what's behind this feeling? And now what's underneath this feeling? We just kept going. Suddenly he found himself in this situation as a kid. His mother wanting to commit suicide and blaming him for it. And he took this onto himself. And suddenly it was just, it was a horrible thing to feel for a moment, and then all of a sudden it just broke. And I said, what's happening? He says, love and dancing. And he was just elated. Now, you can't plan that kind of stuff. The mind can't come up with a process that will make that happen. But it went spontaneously from these layers of trauma, from a child taking the blame for his mother's attempt at suicide, to complete freedom, love and dancing. And he actually got up and he was moving. He was moving. It's like you could see it. You could see it in him. It is so powerful. Because what he did is he touched this place that is underneath our layers of identity, our layers of wounds and traumas, our layers of beliefs. Underneath it is the pure reality that you are, the pure original innocence. So, I think I've taken long enough for that. Hopefully that we got somewhere with that. Hopefully I brought you guys into your bodies. That would be my desire. It's time. Take a break, everybody. Take a sip. GP is done with his sermon. We can get on with satsang now. And let me go and say hello to everyone. Roberto in Madrid. Rosario also in Madrid. My Madrid contingent. Roberto, is acceptance a kind of I couldn't care less? Would that take us, therefore, to a non-action attitude? Well, boy, this really dovetails very nicely on my conversation about the Western mind. The Western mind is very compartmentalized, right? There's acceptance and there's rejection. There's allowing it to be or taking massive action to change it, right? It's like there's nothing in between, right? In reality, it's a flow between the two, right? So when I talk about acceptance, just accepting things as they are, that has to start with accepting myself as I am, accepting my own feelings, being willing to be present with what I happen to be feeling. Elvis caller. Elvis has left the planet. Well, it starts with, we've all been trained to reject our feelings, that our feelings aren't important. It's all in the head. It's all conceptual. Everything from the neck down is subject to these ideas and the imposition these ideas place on our life. So everything we do is directed by it. Even really good things, like meditation, can be being driven by the mind of something I'm supposed to get out of it, the way it's supposed to go. Yoga, right? Doing yoga becomes competitive instead of the practice for preparing yourself to be able to meditate for long periods of time. Everything gets conceptualized, and then the conceptualized enforces itself, imposes itself on stuff that has nothing to do with it. This is a completely different world down here, which does not see the world the same way as up here. So you start with being with the feelings as the feelings, even pleasant or unpleasant, so that you can simply be with them, which means being with yourself as you are. Right? Now that's acceptance. Right? It doesn't mean, okay, I feel horrible and I'll accept feeling horrible. No, it means there's a horrible feeling here and I'm going to be present with it. The object isn't to feel horrible or to find a great coping mechanism, right? I'm going to cope with my misery for a lifetime. It's to be free from misery. How do you do that? By acknowledging there's misery here. First of the noble truths that Buddha laid out. There is suffering. Okay, there is suffering here. Right? Now, when I say acceptance, I say I'm accepting that it is here. Not that I have to live with it forever. Not that I just have to learn how to tolerate it. But it's here. It's in me. This is something that matters, and I need to give it some loving attention. That's acceptance. At the same time, there is the desire to be free of it. So you see, it's not one or the other. It's both at the same time. Now, turning that attention outward, right, to action and non-action and action, no action and non-action, which are different things altogether, right? Acceptance is not a I could care less. No, it's not resignation. It's not sour grapes. It doesn't matter. It's not indifference. Right? Well, this is what's happening right now. And this is happening because a whole bunch of circumstances took place that put me in the position and the experience I'm having in my life right now, including things I did, choices I made, apparent mistakes I made, all sorts of things that I did that contributed to it. This is all here right now. And I accept that it's here, right? I'm not going to reject it. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, because it does. It hurts. There is suffering here, and I want to be free of suffering. So I care very much that it's here. Right? Now, at the same time, I want to be free of it. I want circumstances that serve me, that are more to my liking. I mean, less obligations, maybe a better relationship, better health, more money, more opportunities, more creativity. These two can coexist. I accept things as they are and want them to be different at the same time. They're both there, which means you accept them both. And now the struggle isn't we're not fighting with circumstances anymore, nor are we trying to make ourselves just acquiesce and be resigned and miserable, right? Just be better at being miserable. Excuse me. So now it becomes, all right, I have equanimity now. Yeah, this is here, and it hurts, and I'm going to allow myself to be fully present with that. And there's the desire to go beyond that, to go to the place of freedom and love and bliss that I've heard so much about. And how do I go about doing that? I can't do it by fighting. That doesn't work. If I conflict with it, it just creates more misery. So from this place of acceptance can arise an intelligent, creative way for making the circumstances conform more and more to match the inner equanimity that has been discovered and cultivated. So that means suddenly you can go, I need to contact this person, and just do it, right? Or, I don't really have to be obligated to this anymore. I've done it. This served me once. It doesn't serve me anymore. I'm going to find a way to get myself out of there. The faster, the better, but in such a way that it's harmonious and I don't hurt anybody and I don't hurt myself. You can see it's a completely different attitude towards it. It's hardly I could care less. I care very much. I care so much that I want to honor everything in my life, not just this one part, and certainly not just acquiesce to something because I don't see a way out of it. Right? Is this answering it for you, Roberto? This is true, not two. This is the real non-duality. It's not an abstraction. It's very much here. These are two aspects of the same thing. It's a flow, the inner and the outer, the accepting, the caring, the desire for change, and the complete equanimity with what is here now. They are not in conflict with each other. when you realize that, life can become the Tao. Everything can become this flow. It's practice. It takes time to get into that, to be in that flow consistently, because our habit, the way our mind thinks, it's very compartmentalized. It says, oh no, I either accept or I reject. Neither. Neither. It's a flow between them. It becomes very non-dual. It's not two. It's not this or that. It is just this flow between apparent opposites. Is that good for you, Roberto? And maybe everybody else? Yeah, I think I put it that as well as I'm going to be able to put it today. So thank you, Roberto. Tea break. Oh, Ava. 11 pull. Are you feeling better, Ava? I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. I know so. Bouncing back. There's Daryl in a cloudy but beautiful Maryland. We had a little sun today. Seattle is not, famous for suntans. Yeah. Rented bodies. Namaste, GP and everyone. It's Kuhulika. I think I said it right this time. My young friend in India. Rented bodies, that's interesting. I do hope you're referring to, this body, right? We rent it like we rent a car and we drive it around for a while and then we get a new one, right? Because there's a more seedy definition of that, but I don't think you mean that. David and Elaine, so good to see you both. Yay. Hello, Brent. Hi to you. Carl, hello from Ireland. There's David. Christ didn't say he was God. They later said he was saying that. Yeah. I just saw a thing with Bart Ehrman the other day talking about that. And from all of the record, he never actually claimed that. The Messiah, yes, but that has nothing to do with being God. That all came later and actually first appears in the Gospel of John, which is about 120 years later. Not written by John, obviously. And even then, because the Gospel of John doesn't have any of the history of anything. It's very metaphysical, right? It's very mythological. So he's describing the oneness that Christ was alluding to, the oneness that we can all discover when we get below the level of conceptual thought and deeper into the point where we go beyond the world of feeling. We're now in the world of pure wisdom. This is the Buddha land, as they refer to it, or the Dharmakaya, which is the body of truth. That's what it means, the body of truth. The true Buddha body is the truth itself. And this is what Christ was referring to when he was saying, I and my Father are one. But they couldn't understand it at the time, like we still don't. Remember, the Roman Empire and Judaism, this is the foundation of, mixed with the Greek that came in through the Roman Empire, this is the foundation of Western civilization. It all spread because of the Roman Empire. And the Roman Empire, they weren't philosophers like the Greek. They weren't pondering. They were business people. They were there to exploit, to grab resources, to just take whatever they could to get richer. Sound familiar? Indeed. I say no more, say no more. It was all added later, right? To turn him into something that would suit their purposes. Again, this wasn't a conscious thing. This wasn't the Illuminati plotting and planning. It was just the natural egoic tendency and the Western point of view, which conceptualized everything and put it in little buckets, that desire for power just kind of overwhelmed and started coloring the whole thing. And this conceptual model of separation colored the whole thing until we had Christ completely beyond, God, and God coming to earth, sacrificing himself to himself in order to pay the penalty that for something we didn't actually do, but he said we did. Because he didn't like it. a twist, a very, very, very clever game. If God was trying to play a trick on herself, how can I fool myself into thinking I'm not God for a bit? Well, that'd be the way to do it, wouldn't it? I have to get to God, but I'm not worthy of getting to God. So something else is going to have to get me to God. Well done. What a riddle to try to sort out if you're God playing hiding cat and mouse with herself. Oh, there's poor Tiki. I'm in here, little buddy. Tiki sleeps with me every single night. So I hop into bed 5 minutes later. Boop, he's up there. I miss having fur buddies, but I just can't have them in my life. I can barely take care of houseplants at this point. So let's see. Ida Catherine Angel. Namaste, GP. Much love from north of Norway. Ooh, yeah, you guys are like heading into like no day at all, aren't you? Great one, just like the jazz player. Lovely to be with you every Sunday. You're like the sunlight I'm missing through December and January. Oh, thank you, Ida. Yes, God plays jazz. That's the best way to the best way to put it. It's not creation in time. That's a very conceptual thing. It is creation of the moment. Something just kind of popping out of the emptiness. Boy, I could go in on that all day. I won't. I won't. I promise. Ready bodies, kuhuleka. How to discern whether a feeling in the body is a result of the mind, or the body's true expression of a feeling. Very good. Very good. They spend more time with the body. So you begin to really be able to intimately know the difference in the quality of something that's arising out of the body and what's coming from the mind. When you put your attention on something, a feeling in the body, your mind will immediately begin to talk about it. If you stay with the feeling, right, there's the feeling, and you go, well, what's behind this feeling? Let's go into this feeling more deeply. You'll immediately, you don't even have to cultivate it. We already can tell the difference between an intuitive hit and just a memory, right? The same old classification and concept that was there before. And that's all the mind has. It only has memories. It only has what it's already known. It doesn't have access to anything fresh. It's not a creator. I know they come to a shock of a lot of people who like the manifestation, but it's not the creator. It is a manifester. Right? So it does create what we would call our perception and therefore the world, but it is not the originator of the direction in which its creation is going to go, or the shaping of experience is going to go. That comes from someplace else. And you can feel the difference. Eugene Gendling referred to it as the felt sense. It's something just says, this is right. And we all know what that's like. An aha moment, somebody goes, yeah, this is right. There's a sense about it, isn't there? And what comes with it, which does not come from the mind, is that when you hit on that, and it's right, excuse me, I've just got something going on here, there's a feeling of well-being. There's a relaxation. And at that moment, you can stop the inner work or say, let's see if this can go even further. And you go level by level until you break into this space which is absolutely wide open. It's so vast, you can't find any boundary to it. So when that question gets asked, notice your mind is looking for a checklist to say, oh, is this mind or is this body? Right, so put that aside and rely on the knowing that's here already, that does not need a checklist to know whether it's true or not. You can feel it. And if If it's really confused, just go to the sensation. I can feel my hand. That's not a thought. Oh, here's what my hand feels like. I find a lot of people, as we go into this, there's this feeling in the chest. I know I have it. It's there all the time. Whenever I put my attention there it is. Sometimes it's very deep. It goes all the way through me. Sometimes it has a color, right? But there's this, it's like an energy, and like chakras, I guess, there's something to it. I can feel it right there. And I go deeply into that feeling. I don't stop there because this is just on this level. I want to go all the way and just keep going. So you know. How do you know you're feeling your hand? You just know. How do you know you exist at all? I just know. If I didn't exist, I couldn't know anything. I wouldn't be here. So there's just this really subtle but self-evident knowingness. You'll come over time to simply rely on it. You'll trust it. I had to write in. I didn't have to. I had the impulse that I needed to send an email out, which I did yesterday. No, the day before yesterday. Yesterday was about, I wrote the email for today. And I had no idea what I was completely void of thoughts, no creativity, no inspiration, nothing. The only thing I had was a feeling that I needed to do it. And it wasn't being, I got to do it because, I haven't written anything in a while. There was something inside that was just like, something is here and wants to happen. So I sat down and I started writing. And I had no idea what I was going to write about. And I started writing about not knowing what I'm going to write about. And I had no idea where it was going to go. And it finally got to, so at the last minute, boom, this really gentle, loving idea emerged that I wrote down. Wow, that's it. And I even got an email back from somebody saying that it just left them it just touched them really deeply. Now, all I did was respond to the impulse to do it. I didn't even know what I was doing. And sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it comes as full-on inspiration. Every morning when I get up, in addition to, sometimes I'll just meditate on something and be with it, or feel into something. And other times I just have a notebook, I've got a bunch of them, and I write. I just write what starts coming. And stuff just happens, just unfolds, right? And it's usually very poignant, often deeper than I've ever gone before on any particular subject. Oftentimes ways in which I can teach things that I hadn't seen before. So it's just kind of this, just dig in. Want to be closer to yourself. Want to have access to that deep wisdom that lies underneath all of this. And it's there. There's layers of identity and wounds and traumas and belief systems and programming and conditioning. You got to get through all of those, right? Because they're going to distract you and pull you off and make you afraid and don't go there, even make you feel like you're in hell. Right? And you just keep going. Well, what's behind that? What's underneath this feeling of hell? And I've had that. I even saw it. It was right here. There were hell beings in there. It's like, geez, the Buddhists were right. And it was like, okay, what's beyond that? And I just kept going. And then finally, boom, it opens. Because there is this underneath. And remember, all of these layers are simply trying to keep you safe. They're not enemies. They're not trying to mess up your life. These are all strategies that the body developed, not the mind, the body developed to keep you safe, to keep you from exposing yourself in an environment in which you would get hurt. And they're so ingrained in that, and our identity is so much in our heads, that it feels as if we ourselves are being punished, put aside, resisted, fought, right? Your desire for freedom is being thwarted. In fact, it's not. It's been protecting this underlayer, which is the real you the whole time, the authentic you, appearing in its infinite scope as well as in its individual manifestation, which is what we call our human lives. So, that was good. And a sermon. Can I get an amen? Okay. Ida says love to all. If you didn't see it, wonderful. Please like and share. Like, subscribe, all of that. Let's see. Marcel, my buddy in Germany. Good to see and hear you. In one of the last satsangs, you mentioned that people are currently more traumatized than ever before. Can you elaborate on that a bit? What do you think has changed? Well, I think it is inherent in the way things have evolved, going all the way back to agriculture. There was trauma in the hunter-gatherer phase, where we were just much more tied with nature. What trauma is technically speaking, it's the free state. Okay? It's when you can't run and you can't fight. Right? You have run out of moves, and there's a mortal threat confronting you. It's the possum, playing possum, which is really such a misnomer. He's not playing. There's no strategy. He didn't work this out. I think I'm going to play dead. Automatically, because there are no options left. He's not very fast, so he can't run away. Right? And he has no defensive capability to fight against, a fox or a wolf or something like that. So what happens? He dies. He apparently dies. Now this is not a thinking critter. This is pure nature. Thump. And if you see one of these in that state, they look dead. Out the eyes. It would take an EKG to find life in that thing. And it just stays there. And it's a brilliant survival mechanism for two reasons. Number one, a lot of times many predators require the resistance of the prey in order to trigger their aggressiveness to continue to the kill. Now, it's not true of like lions and things. It's not true of all mammals, but many it is. It is of like the canines, wolves and foxes. And if they're not fighting, if they're not resisting, all of that aggression just fades away, and they lose interest and they walk away. Now, this is the beauty of nature and how it works. But the other part of it is that if for some reason it's a critter that does not have that reaction and they continue, it shuts down to the point where there's no pain. There's no experience of your basically being devoured alive. Now, in humans, early on, hunter-gatherer, it was the same kind of trauma we would experience, right? Confronting beasts and the like. But it could very naturally be discharged, like animals. The possum, once the danger is past, they come out of the free state, they're back in the fight or flight, they're alert, they're looking around, and if there's no danger, the whole thing discharges, the whole energy discharges, and they scamper off someplace where they're safe. In human beings, though, because of the elaborate nature and conceptual capacity of our minds, we can create circumstances that we can't get out of at all. Or if you're talking about being within, take a kid who's in an abusive home. Can't run, can't fight. Right? He isn't going to collapse and play dead, but he kind of is. Right? If it's really abusive, the child just kind of collapses. I have memories of times as a kid when it was just so oppressive, it was so overwhelming that I had no energy left, no motivation, nothing. I was completely quiescent. There was nobody there. There was nobody home. And then I would come back. But in circumstances like that, whereas the possum will get back to fight or flight, find that it's safe now, shakes off that, scampers off, and they get back to this other state, which is peaceful, safe, home-like. Right? But human beings, that doesn't happen because the home isn't safe. You're having dinner with the predator. Right? This is what a trauma is, and it persists. Now, take that same idea of a family that's abusive, where there's nothing you can do. You can't fight it, and you can't run away from it. And expand it now to a country and an economic system that does not give a shit about you. It's only interested in you for what profit it can get. Selling you bad food, poisoning the air, poisoning the water, filling the airwaves with banal, useless stuff, lies, manipulations. So we don't know where to turn. Where do I find a place to make a reference to? This is trauma. This is a traumatized world. And this is true of all the Western countries. America being the worst, and hopefully this doesn't get me taken down, because YouTube and Google are quite enamored with the whole system for their particular reason. But you can see I can't fight the system. I have no power. In the United States, it's even been demonstrated that the vote doesn't have any power anymore. That the will of the people means absolutely nothing in terms of, it's so negligible, as they just say, it has zero influence on what happens in terms of the laws that are made. This is a state of helplessness out of which there is no escape. I can't fight it, and I can't run away from it. Right? Now, my only option would be go somewhere else, get out, but it's spreading all over the place, right? So you can see it's exactly equivalent, only exploded, magnified up to this level, where it's now entire systems and countries and the like. So that's what I mean. And it's not that it's changed. It all started with the development of sophisticated, complex societies back with agriculture, right? City-states and all that. And it's just gotten to its extreme now. But it's always had that capacity to become stuck in the free state and not be able to get out of it. And that's what we're experiencing. So there is another way out of it, and that's the way I was just talking about. And that's going so deeply into yourself that you find this place that has not been touched. Because fight, flight, and freeze are only at the level of the body. They are not at the level of your true authentic self. That is never traumatized. It's never conditioned. It's never programmed. It's never lost. That is the essential wisdom that we connect up to. And that will transform the body, remove the traumas, even when we really are, I can't run and I can't fight, I'm in a state of equanimity. I am not frozen. And I'm just patiently biding my time until some action can be taken. And when I see it, I take it. So you can get there, right? Because we can't fight this. It's too big. It's too powerful. But we can go to a place that's even more powerful. And that's your true self. Does that answer it for you, Marcel? I certainly hope so. Because if not, you'll tell me, and I'll keep going. Peter in Italy, good to see you, my friend. Ava says, gee, thank you for your care. I've not been well for 2 weeks. Do hope now will be better. Yeah, just take care of yourself. Everybody here just sends you their love and support, and just listen to your heart, listen to your body. It knows what to do. And oftentimes, when an illness comes up, it's actually the body discharging some falsities, some false beliefs, some false assumptions, and some trauma. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I've found at times when I've had trauma releases, I'd have a fever, I'd go through my whole body would shake. Right? I found my mouth just moving spontaneously. Sometimes that is what it is doing, right? So don't fight it, right? Don't think, I've got to get through this. No, let the body do what it knows how to do. There's an intelligence here that is not this kind of intelligence. So, let it have its way. Meenakshi? Also from India. Beautiful. Namaste. How to free yourself from desires and feel good at every moment. My body is showing lots of signs and I'm unable to heal it. Well, the only way to be free from desire is to be free from life. Life is desire, right? It's not really freedom from the desire, that is to not have them, right? If that's what you mean. But it is to not be attached to them. And that's a buzzword in spirituality, don't be attached. What that means is that you allow the desires to be there in all of their wonderful intensity. Right? You don't fight them, just like you wouldn't fight a bad feeling coming up, a desire for something. But then you leave it in its pure state. You'll notice how a desire comes up and the mind's all about, how do I fulfill it? How do I get it? It's immediately 10 steps into the future trying to figure out how to do it. Which means it never actually, it doesn't believe the desire itself is something that could be enjoyable. And it immediately throws you into the future, which means that everything up to that point, that if you get to it, is going to be suffering. So what happens if you just stand back here and say, oh, there is desire. Just like I would say there is suffering. There is desire. There it is. Completely natural to human life. Right? Desire to eat, right? The desire for friendship or a lover. The desire to create something. The desire to pick out some clothes, to cut your hair, like I did recently. Right? Thanks to a friend of mine, I trade meditation for free haircuts. So all of these are just the desire. I mean, without desire, you wouldn't be here. None of us would. Desire is simply life's motivation of itself. So now, desire can stand innocent. It's not something you have to get rid of or overcome or throw away. And when you are out of the conflict with it, and you simply allow it to be as it is, and allow it to fulfill itself or not, because it's not your job to make it happen. You're not off into the future. You're absolutely present with what's here right now. In that moment, you will feel good because you're not creating anything that it would make you suffer. It's fighting it, trying to get rid of it, or trying to force it to happen that creates the suffering. So the feeling good at the moment means I'm not in conflict with anything. If I'm not feeling good, it means I'm in conflict. I'm in conflict with how I'm feeling. I'm in conflict with my desires. I'm in conflict with my circumstances. I'm in conflict with my self-image. I don't like the way I look. I don't like what I'm feeling, right? That's conflict. There's the suffering. So if I go, oh, what if I just, here I am right now, and this is what I'm feeling. Here's desires here. There's circumstances I don't like over here. Okay. Let's just be present with that. All of this has a purpose. All of it's part of me. None of it is trying to mess up my life. Buried in all of it is the desire for my happiness, my freedom. It's just trying to keep me safe. So, when you do that, you'll be immediately, if you're doing it right now, you may have already started to feel, oh, there's this sense of relief. That relief tells you you're on the right track. The body's saying, oh, thank you. Thank you. I'll take care of this. Thank you very much. And then if there are signs and things popping up in the body, you give it your attention. You don't see, oh my God, I get rid of this. This is a problem. Something's going to happen. That's all in the mind. The body doesn't announce itself and say, this is a problem. You got to get rid of me. It's just a feeling that comes up. So now you can turn loving attention to whatever that feeling happens to be. What is it? Oh, there's a pain here. Okay, well, okay, I'm going to let that pain be here. What are you trying to tell me, pain? Right. And what's beyond that pain? What's underneath that pain? What's causing that pain? Is there another dimension I can get to here? Now you're engaged in genuine self-inquiry. You're inquiring into what's the real nature of what's going on inside me. What's the real nature of my relationship with everything in my life? And you'll notice that a sense of spaciousness will open up. A sense of well, you're stepping out of the conflict zone. You're not fighting anymore. Right? Remember, it takes two to fight. If you drop out of the fight, there's no fight. Everything becomes calm. And when the absence of the fight, what do you experience? Peace. Equanimity. But even resolve, hopefulness. Suddenly, the desire, which because of the way it was being seen created suffering, becomes pleasurable all on its own. And you find this jazz player that has creative ways of morphing that desire, fulfilling it in different ways, that it has the energy within itself to fulfill itself. You don't have to do anything except let it. It's like a plant that's growing in your garden and you didn't really even plant it. You don't even know how it got there, but there it is, and you don't know what it is yet. But you don't fight it, right? Damn plant. You go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to water it, I'm going to take care of it. Let's see what it becomes. Very, very equanimous relationship with it. Right? And this is the healing. This loving relationship with whatever is happening is the healing. It will do the rest of the job, which is to bring the body, to transform the energy into the body into the more harmonious flow. It brings it back to the Tao. Is this touching you, Meenakshi? I hope I pronounced that right. Is this touching you? If I can get you out of thinking there's something you need to fix and change, and instead pay attention to it as intelligence and a part of you that is simply being rejected, that you want to invite back in to know yourself fully, suddenly the conflict's gone. And with the conflict gone, so is the suffering. And with the suffering gone, there's the sense of feeling good, as you put it. But also, that feeling good means the energy is now beginning to flow in its natural channels, and that's healing. Is this helping? Is this helping, my dear? Andy says, seems like your mind can know something faster than your inner voice can describe it. Is this something you experience? It feels like you don't need the voice besides to communicate to others. The mind, no. What the mind knows is always a rehash of the past. It doesn't know anything. It only has images and concepts. The only knowing is the inner voice. That actually knows. It, when allowed to bubble up into the mind, directs the mind for communicating it to others, not the other way around. The mind does not know anything. It manipulates symbols. It compares, it contrasts, it remembers, it sorts things out, it reaches into the memory file to see if something fits, but it doesn't know anything. Matter of fact, it's never 100% confident. It's always like, well, yeah, it's close, but maybe not. It can never know. Yet the inner voice can know with complete and total confidence, 100%. Just like you're hungry. Right? Your mind doesn't get involved in that at all, except later to say, I'm hungry. Let's go have some. I feel like a pizza. Let's go have a pizza. Right? Or a tofu salad or something healthy. Right? So it's exactly the opposite. Right? The mind responds faster because it thinks it knows. It doesn't wait to find out. You, the consciousness that is deeper than the mind, has to not be tricked into thinking that that's the answer, and instead go more deeply into itself to say, okay, what's the actual answer? What's the real knowing? And it's that consciousness, which is you, that recognizes the real knowing and can tell the difference between the mind's memories, the mind's concepts laid upon the experience and the actual experience itself. You can discern that, because the consciousness discerning it is in fact the same as that lowest level of, right? But we don't identify it as such. We think it's something up here, right? But in fact, that consciousness is that. Who you are is that. The consciousness is hearing my words right now is that layer of wisdom. That is the self, the true being. How does that sound, Andy? Did I correct that for you? You don't need the voice to experience. You don't, and if you meant that the mind grabs something before the inner voice can, yeah, then you're absolutely accurate. It does. It just throws something up. It doesn't actually know. It doesn't have the capacity for that level of conviction. So we need the mind to communicate it. The mind, if you look at not just words, but everything that's expressive, music and dance and all of it, it is a vehicle through which the inner voice, which is silent but pregnant with meaning, finds expression. So it's in movement, it's in gestures, it's in words, it's in images, it's in poetry, it's in stories, it's in conversation. Right? That's simply the expression or communication of it. But the depth, the actual meaning, the actual truth is here. Lifestyle. Oh, there's Lisa. Hello, Lisa. GP, here's the voice that offers us all peace and wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you're feeling the peace. Marcel, thank you very much for your explanation. I think social isolation also plays a crucial role in our current world. Oh my God, does it ever? In the long run, people will probably have to build new and authentic communities. We're doing it right now, aren't we? That's what we're doing right now. We're building an authentic and genuinely loving, communicative community. Because we need community. The human need is for community. If we try to take the spiritual notion of this oneness and say, I don't need community, you've missed the whole point of oneness. It's not two. The one, which is absolutely one, with no boundaries, no limits, no anything, can only be manifested by two. So that the duality that is believed to exist separate from that one, that it's an independent functioning thing, that's the illusion, right? The experience of duality doesn't go away. Just the idea that it exists independently of the one, the beingness from which it emerged. When it's reconnected, we find that the expression of the one is manifest in two, and without the two, there is no manifestation. But because it is not an act of creation, it's playing jazz, this two-ness is coming up spontaneously. It wasn't an act. It's constantly being refreshed, like the computer screen in front of you, 60 times a second. Oh, my chair is squeaking. So, yes, and we are. It's inevitable. It is becoming more and more apparent to many people that we've created something that's very dissatisfied. We've created a world and systems of politics and economics and religion that are completely unsatisfactory and are completely obsolete. We have everything we need to create a world in which there's no hunger, there's no violence, there's no lack of medical or shelter or water or even the luxuries that we all enjoy. We have everything we need to make that happen. And people are, well, why aren't we? Because there's still this element in the human ego of greed that thinks it wants it for itself and is never satisfied. It is the addiction to more, which is slowly being overwhelmed by the reality of enough. So, thank you, Marcel. Daryl, GP, I sent you an email regarding that email. Not sure if you got it, but that message was for me. Yes. Yeah, I got it. And you are who I was referring to, but I don't mention names. Flavia, hello. How do we get into this place that has never been touched? Thank you for your teachings. From Brazil. Oh, I love Brazil. I've only been there a couple of times, but what a great place. What wonderful, warm people. Oh, my goodness. South America is very different than North America. It's a very different culture altogether. But anyway, this is how you do it, through the body. At least this is the way I teach it. You go through the body. There's many teachers, most in fact, it's a transcendence of going beyond it, seeing the unreality of things. I take a more tantric approach, a more Sufi approach, and that is you go into the body, you go into the human life, you go into the feelings, and through those feelings, it goes through all the layers of trauma. It's these traumas that are characteristic of the West that has made non-duality so difficult to understand, because there's these layers of stuff that simply want to get away. And so non-duality becomes the ultimate in a spiritual bypass, because it is intellectually so satisfying and so precise and so right. That all we have to do is keep holding to that idea and the rest of this will go away, and it doesn't. And this is why I say you have to go into the body. You cannot ignore the various kinds of wounds and traumas and beliefs and assumptions that we've collected, the reactions that have been programmed into our nervous system to protect and obscure that original place that hasn't been touched. Because that's what its job is, keep it from being touched. And this is what all this is about. If we realize that that's what it's about, the journey back in, or as Ramana Maharshi put it, go back the way you came, all the way back down to the place from which you emerged, which is the place that was never touched. And we can see that in children, right? You can see that they've never been touched. It's just this pure wondrousness. The same thing with pets and animals and the like. It's pure wondrousness. It's not been touched. But little by little, the child, as it has to adapt to the environment, the nervous system starts obscuring the place that's never been touched and presenting more and more layers to the world, just simply to get the needs met, to keep it safe. But then the job of awakening, when we finally get to the point where we do, which all of you have, by the way, or you wouldn't be listening to me, you're already there. The job of awakening then is to turn back inside and to walk back the way you came. To me, this is the best way to approach non-duality, spirituality in the West. And damn it, that's what I'm going to do. So there. Prove me wrong. Does that answer it for you, Flavia? That's how you get to that place. And that's what I help people to do. Through these videos, through the courses, through the private sessions, that's all I do is here, let's go there. Let's not talk about going there. Let's actually go there, because it's not actually that hard to get to. So yes, thank you, Flavia. Speaking of doing these videos, I have to say this. It's really difficult to say. It's very difficult for me to ask for help, but I need help. My camera that I use for making all of my videos, all of my courses, most of my YouTube videos, not this one today, because it broke. Really nice camera. I've had it for about 10 years. It broke, and it may not be repairable. So I had to go out and buy a new one. And I don't have the money to go out and buy a new one. So I have run my charges up about as high as I can. So I'm asking for people to help, to donate. I actually set up a GoFundMe to let me see if I got it here. The banners, yes. There it is. To just pay off it's like about $800 to $1,000, the camera and the stuff and the shipping and all the stuff that had to go with it, and the new batteries, the other stuff I had to get for it, which will get my get me away from the limit I have on my charges right now, which means that if another emergency comes up, I won't be able to meet it. I already had one with my car that was huge, and I haven't even met that, and I got this one. So if you can spare a little bit of change, I'm the busker right now. I'm your spiritual teacher on the street corner, busking like the musician, to help me offset the cost of that. And I read a beautiful children's book called "The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse," and there's this beautiful line on the page, because the horse is kind of the symbol of wisdom in the characters, and it's a children's book for adults. And the boy asked the horse, "What's the most brave thing, most courageous thing you've ever said?" And the horse responded, "Help." I'll leave it at that. Thank you all. Alrighty. Back to work. Daryl, yeah, it was specifically for me. I'd asked a very specific question of God. Your email was the exact message I asked to know. Wow. Right. Yeah. Isn't it amazing how it works? I had no idea what was going to happen when I sat down to write that email, other than I knew I needed to do it. I knew I needed to do it. And so I sat down to see, okay, let's, come on, Muse. Don't let me down now. And it is kind of precarious, because my entire life, everything I've ever done, every career I've ever done that wasn't just menial labor, and I've had plenty of those, it involved relying on the flow of creative ideas, and if they didn't come, that's it. That's what I was hired for. And if they don't come, next. So it's kind of I'm kind of dependent upon that river keeping flowing. Anyway. So it was me pondering my own, how precarious it can be, but at the same time how dependable it is. It's just never let me down, It's just never let me down, and it's never required me to be in a certain state. I didn't have to attract it. I didn't have to keep my vibration high. It's never had those requirements of me. Just show up. Just show up. Be the artist. Show up at the canvas with your paints. You can't guarantee a masterpiece, but if you're not there, you can guarantee it's not going to happen. So I show up. So far, so good. So far, so good. Awake, not woke. Great explanation of our traumatic society. Going within and recognizing that it's all a dream indeed helps. But the desire to change that script of helplessness still manifests strongly, as well it should. Right? We do not do this to simply become acquiescent or accepting of the crap that's happening. We are in this to remove suffering, to become free, to solve the problems. This is the human need. Not to just transcend it so you don't care anymore, but to bring that transcendence, which is actually down here rather than up here, into the world so that it becomes healed. This is the Vedantic is the inward, the Tantric is the outward. The manifestation of this as real solutions to real problems. Remember, I point this out all the time. People miss it. Buddha, the greatest non-dual teacher of all time, did not go looking for enlightenment. Siddhartha, when he left home and his family and his children and riches and power, didn't leave so he could go find some idyllic state of enlightenment. He went to find the answer to human suffering. Even though he himself wasn't physically suffering, he was a billionaire's son, right? Basically, right? With all the power, all the prestige, could do whatever he wanted, the best education, the best, best medicine, the best everything that had to offer he had. Right? But something touched him so deeply about human misery that he couldn't let it go, and it caused him to leave all that behind. But it wasn't to find some idyllic state of nirvana or bliss. It was to find the answer to suffering. And after putting himself through incredible suffering, thinking that that was the way to do it, to completely destroy the body, bring it down to absolute death, and by the time he finally did sit under the Bodhi tree, where the enlightenment, the awakening actually happened, he looked like death warmed over. I mean, I wasn't eating, he wasn't bathing, he didn't cut his hair, he didn't wear clothes. It was just skin and bones. He looked dead. So, in fact, that the young girl who came and saw him gave him, here, eat something, which is what he did, right? And recognized that that wasn't it. That was solution to suffering was not more suffering. And that's when he sat down under the Bodhi tree, and what he said was, I will not get up from here until I have found the answer to suffering. That tells me everything I need to know. We are here to alleviate suffering, find solutions to problems, to not just acquiesce and say, okay, I will live with this forever, I will go without, I will deprive myself endlessly. I did that, doesn't work, but I need a real solution to this problem, and I'm going to dig in, because I know it's in here, it's not out there. It's down here somewhere. That's where I'm going to look. So, yeah, so you're right. Recognize it as a dream is true. Right? Now what do you do? If that alone completely eliminated suffering and brought harmony and flow to your life, which then allowed you to give it to others as well, wonderful. Then it's done its job. But in my experience, just the knowing of that, conceptually, which is easy to get, doesn't cut it. Doesn't make a dent down here. As the great teacher Ram Dass said so brilliantly, he said, all of the spiritual experiences I've had, the enlightenment, the awakening, the extraordinary experiences, haven't made a dent on my neuroses. He recognized the whole creative tension between the realization of the truth and the living of the truth in our lives. And this is the place where this is the cross. This is the crossroads between heaven and earth, between the past and the future. That's what the cross represents. Right here, right? The human existence. This is where it happens. This is why the heart is right in the center of the upper and lower chakras, right? This is where it happens. So, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Awake Not Woke. Lisa, oh, that good old equanimity. The loving relationship is the healing. I rest my case. There's Lulu. Lulu sits with me every morning. I get up early, like 4 in the morning, and I'll sit in that chair right there to meditate. Turn on the fire. It's a gas fire. I'll turn it on. I'll sit there. She comes over and sits right next to me, like the Egyptian temple cat, just with the fire. And behind me is the other cat. He sits up on the piano back there. Beautiful pianos. Yeah, this is a beautiful house, overlooking Lake Washington. It's wonderful that I get to hang out here and take care of the critters and actually make a little extra money. It's kind of a house sitting gig and cat sitting gig that I have. And it's nice digs. So, greetings from snowy Sweden. How unusual. How unusual. The country that gave us snow skiing is snowing. Look at that. Andrew, hi G. Those moments, and they're few and far between, when I realized that for a few minutes I had forgotten myself completely, are very special. All the best. Yeah, they are. And here's a little tip. Don't try to reproduce it. You know what happens when we get that, suddenly I've just forgotten myself, and it's blissful. And then I come back. The thoughts of me, the old habits of me come back. There's an attempt to want to hold on to that moment of peace and bliss, or to try to recreate the steps. Well, what did I do? I said, I did this, and then this happened, as if that moment was the result of some kind of action. It's a spontaneous gift of grace from beyond. So what you do is you say, oh, thank you. I know that this bit of grace, this insight, this feeling is working inside of me now. There's no getting around it. I can't unsee it. Its influence cannot be undone. So the serum's been injected. And then be willing to just keep going into the feelings. That the feelings that it comes back, and there's this, it's back. Wait a minute. Oh, there's the mind again, and I'm still here. When it comes up, we have a choice. We don't realize it. We can dive into it, right, and become it again and fight with it, or we can stand back and go, oh, there it is, and just stay a little distance away from it. And you'll find in that distance there's love, there's space, there's patience, there's compassion. And then you let the mind do its thing. You let it do its thing, and you stay here, like a little kid, right, flailing about something. And you maintain this place from which it can all be watched. And that place eventually sinks all the way down and merges, becomes one with that underlying reality that is just beyond description. But you're living in right now. Dave, hello Dave. From Philly, there's Flavia. Oh, I got a nice smiley face from my friend in Brazil. Rented Body says thank you. Another thank you. Yes, and thank you. It's definitely touching me. Very good. Very good, Daryl. Hendrik, good to see you, my friend. Heartfelt, thank you. Ava, Lisa, I agree 100% with your words. The abundance vibration. Oh, I like that vibration. If I have to choose between the impoverished vibration and the abundant, no contest. No contest. I'm down with that. GP, I have a question. I direly want to attract a new lover or multiple lovers. Good for you. Do I just go out and talk and cold approach people I find attractive, or do I wait for divine timing and just let it go? How about neither? Throw all of that out, right? Notice it's your mind looking for a strategy that's going to work, right? And notice it's one or the other. You can always tell it's the mind because it's always polarized, right? I got to be out there and I'm going to go places and I'm going to meet people. And, hey, how you doing? I'm going to practice my introductory line or my pickup line, or and what am I going to do and how do I do it and what am I going to do and what I got to. That's the mind strategizing how to get something that is so natural and such a big deal for us that we think, because we've become so disconnected from here, we think we have to figure out how to do it. Now, the body's been doing this for a long time, right? Long before we could even think, right? We've been doing this. So the body knows how to do it. No doubt knows how to do it, right? The body knows how to pick up on the signals. It knows how to send out the signals, right? It knows how to interpret what it's getting. What we need to do is become more in touch with the body that is the interface with our world. It already knows this stuff, right? This is where the divine timing is. It's not just I'm waiting for something to happen. I'm cultivating and paying more and more attention to the knowingness that's been built into me from the beginning, but I was taught to not trust and get into my head instead. That's why we get into the head. We get into the head because we've been so damn traumatized from the waist down. It's painful to be in our bodies. We don't want to feel this stuff. Be in your head. Think about it. Create strategies. Make economic systems. Create philosophies and theologies and all of that. Bullshit. It's all bullshit. And that's my technical spiritual word, right? That's right out of the mouth of the Buddha. Quote the Buddha, it's all bullshit. It's not that it doesn't have its place. The mind has its place, but it's taken over. Okay? So yeah, it can be difficult to go in to our bodies. Difficult to be there long enough for its inherent wisdom and gut instinct to begin to appear, which it knows how to do. Imagine some animal, the impala on the Serengeti, right, that has lost touch with its gut instinct. How long would it last? Barely the afternoon, if even the morning, right? They know, and they don't question it. Move, run, go. and they're actually already running. They're not even thinking about it. It's just happening. That capacity exists within you. That level of intimate connection with everything in the environment knows where the danger is and knows where the opportunity is. And of course, that's what you're looking for, the opportunity. For one or a dozen or the partner for life. It knows. It knows this stuff. When I say it, the body is not a thing. It's not a mechanism. If you just close your eyes for a moment and feel it, without the image of the eye, it doesn't even have a form. It's just this flow of energy, isn't it? Everything is an aspect of consciousness. What the body is a denied aspect of the infinitude of your consciousness that you've disowned, called it a body, made it external, right? When in fact it is nothing but the depths of consciousness knowing at a level that our mind cannot grasp. And with that knowledge, the mind then becomes an aspect of consciousness, which is the surface here, which makes stuff happen, which creates worlds, right? But does not have the capacity to know what the hell to create. It needs to be driven, guided by the inner wisdom, and then it does it. Because otherwise it hasn't a clue as to what to create, so it makes shit up and creates disasters. It creates the world that we now see. Because it's completely lost touch with the depths of consciousness, which are not thoughts, which we sense as feelings, but they're even deeper than feelings. This is the depths of your own consciousness. It is not something that consciousness is simply aware of. It is aware of itself. And you're diving into the very nature of consciousness itself. We call it a body, but that's a concept. We see it as a thing, but that's a concept. It's not a thing. It is conscious awareness made manifest. Which means that it knows. Right? And when I say it knows, I mean in the depths of your being, you know. But you need to trust that over the concepts and the strategies and the ideas that we've all been programmed to rely on and have built an entire superstructure of a culture and a world based on that fundamental misconception. Because the model in the mind, what it creates, is not going to have any real reference point. It's a thought, referencing a thought, referencing a thought. It has no connection to anything real, anything solid, which is why it just keeps fucking itself over. It builds on sand. So, you are learning to let go, but not trusting in a divine, some kind of obscure divine that you're trusting in your own intuitive divinity, the knowingness within you. And so, enjoy it. Nisargadatta was once asked, why are there male and female? Why are there men and women? Why does this happen? And he looks and goes, for your pleasure, for your happiness. What else? Now this is from the mouth of a fully enlightened spiritual master. It's for your delight, for your pleasure. The restrictions, the fears we have about it, the taboos that have been laid on it are all Again, my favorite word for that, bullshit. They're created by the culture for the interests of the culture and not for the interests of you, and they are completely detached from the nature of your own being. It's all for your delight. It's all for your enjoyment. And as such, because it becomes sacred. It doesn't get abused. It doesn't get taken advantage of. It's always mutual and respectful and appreciative. I love so much the potential that exists in romantic and even just purely recreational sexual relationships. The potential of them is enormous for the benefit of the human heart and body and mind. And it's just one other thing that the mind's gotten a hold of. The mind divorced from the depths of its own being. Mind, it's only from here up, it gets divorced from it and creates all sorts of ridiculous things that do nothing but hurt people and create people to say, well, what do I do? Do I plan this or do this? Or I wait? You don't need any of that. Just go, thank you. I know you're just trying to help out here. You're trying to keep me safe. But this isn't your job. You don't know how to do this. I'll get back to you. That's how you do it. Does that help their abundance vibration? And vibrate with an abundance of what is the abundance vibration? It's simply the natural state of harmonious being. Right? When we feel that vibration, we're feeling ourselves as we really are. We're feeling our harmonious nature. It's not something you have to force. I got to raise my vibration. No, it's already there. It's just like you have to pull away all the stuff that thinks it has to do something about it. Daryl says, God help me to show up. Amen. Beautiful reply to the dating question, says Marcel. Another young man. Well, maybe that abundance is a young woman. I'm not sure. I can't tell because there's no picture. But man or woman, doesn't matter. It works either way. David, you mentioned recreating steps that led to bliss. I recreate steps that led to pain in an effort to undo it and prevent it from happening again instead of allowing that to happen. Which I would simply ask, how's that working for you? Right? All it does is basically, when we try to do that, okay, I can't do this again. We're training the nervous system into a state of conflict and avoidance. Right? Now, if I can't do this again, I've just put a little wall around myself. I'm not actively engaged in life. You don't need to do that, because notice that's the mind trying to do that. The body learns and goes, not quite right. Yeah, that didn't go where I wanted it to go. So, and it very naturally flows off in another direction without hindering itself, without handcuffing itself, without thinking it needs to take self-defense lessons or I can't ever do that again. That's trauma. Trauma says, I will never let that happen again, and freezes you so that nothing similar to that gets an opportunity to express itself. Right? That's not where you want to go. We're going to learn and just absorb the lesson and then live. Right? You may do it again, right? But you won't do it forever. And you'll find that if you really rely on this inner wisdom, that you won't do it again. You'll see it coming, right? If the mind's trying to see it coming, it's going to be analyzing. Is it this? Is it that? Oh, wait, but this it's slightly different. It's going to just make a mess. It's just going to make a mess. But if the body, it goes, oh, no, it's so good. Like when you learn how to ride a bicycle, right? You don't learn how to ride a bicycle. You just want to ride the bicycle. The body learns how to do it, right? You get on and you fall over. So what's happening as you're trying to do that, insisting that I really want to do that, the body is learning how to make thousands of tiny, minuscule adjustments that are going to keep you upright. And to the point we're not even aware of it. It's a tiny little muscle activity that's going on, so subtle we don't even know it. It's happening constantly that keeps you upright. It didn't happen at first, right? But the same thing is happening now. Everything that happens in your life, the body learns from. It goes, oh, if we have a clear vision as to where we're headed, which is freedom, openness, spaciousness, love, compassion. Right? It doesn't have to be something specific, I need to get to this destination. Just general like that. Just, I want to be free. I want to be more spacious. I want to have more love and more fun in my life. Right? The body says, okay, good, got it. And it will start, like on that bike, it'll start making the little adjustments to make it happen. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. Don't even bother trying. You'll just make a mess, right? You'd be like, washing your car with your 5-year-old son or daughter, right? Cute, but you're going to have to redo the whole thing. just make a mess. Just fun stuff everywhere. Abundance vibration. Thanks, that helps so much. Somehow I just knew on the inside that I can relax and there'll be somehow be a way made. Yes. But it's not a divinity out there. It's the divinity in here. It's your own nature. At the depth of what we call nature, which is the body, there is the nature of all things, which is the self, which is the Buddha nature, which is the one, the infinitive. That's the ultimate actual nature of your being. Well, folks, thanks GP. My body knows what went down and will protect me. My mind gets in the way. Yeah. That's not what the mind's for. You say, thank you. It's not your job. I know. And you know what? It'll be relieved to be off duty because it can't do the job. How do you feel if you get assigned a job and you just can't do it? It's like, I can't do this. I can't lift 100-pound bags of sand onto a truck. I can't do it, right? But it's my job. Oh, you don't have to do it. Sorry, mistake. You don't need to do it. Oh, thank God. You can pull espresso instead. Oh, perfect. I can do that. So, well, we have apparently, I have exhausted you all. Right? I'm ready. I'll keep going. But we seem to have run out of questions, which I'm happy to say. So I'm going to make my plea. Oh, thank you, G, for being here today. It says, Ava, yeah, you're very welcome. I'm going to make my plea one more time because I do really want to get rid of this debt. I've got enough other debts from other stuff that I've had to do. Remember, I operate all of this on a shoestring. And both Lisa and I, who's my business partner in school, and my help, my saving grace, and a deep personal friend and confidant. It's all coming from this. It's that we put absolutely everything we have into it to make this, to bring this message of love and healing to everyone who will listen to it. So I need your help. So that I can whittle away at all that and get it back down to zero, which it was a couple of years ago. So if you can find it in your heart to help out, I just started this thing this morning, and this will take you over to GoFundMe, which is pretty, but it's very reputable. It only takes a minimum amount of a little bit off of each transaction to keep itself running. So on that note, I will look again at the comments. Thanks and gratitude for another refreshing tea with G. You're welcome, David Elaine. Thanks, Marcel. Thanks for this amazing satsang. You're all very welcome. Well, on that note, I guess I will go in and have some lunch. I haven't had much to eat today. Actually, nothing. Well, I had a little fruit. Yeah. So, thank you, all my lovelies, all my loved ones. Thank you very much. Love you all. Namaste to you.